In the whimsical world of children's literature, there existed a tale as old as time itself, or at least as old as the 1930s. It was the story of Captain Curiosity and the Lost Planet, and let me tell you, it was a real page-turner. Our hero, Captain Curiosity, was your typical fearless explorer, always seeking new adventures beyond the confines of his small town. One day he stumbled upon an antique globe in his attic, a globe with a peculiar twist. It had a tiny door on it. And when Captain Curiosity opened it, wouldn't you know it, he found himself shrunk down to the size of an ant and catapulted into the very planet he'd been gazing at just moments before. Now, this planet was no ordinary one. Oh, no. It was inhabited by all sorts of fantastical creatures, from the littlest little people to animals that could talk. And they were all having the time of their lives. There were parties and parades, and everyone was invited, or at least everyone who wasn't a giant like Captain Curiosity. You see, being an explorer, Captain Curiosity wasn't one to stay put. He wanted to see more of this amazing planet, but he couldn't just walk around like an enormous oaf and ruin the fun for everyone. So he did the only logical thing he could do. He recruited some animal buddies to help him navigate this miniature world. There was Ferdinand the Fox, a sly and cunning fellow with a knack for finding trouble. Then there was Priscilla the Pig, a real looker with a heart of gold and a taste for adventure. And last but not least, Barnaby the Bear, a big softy with a sweet tooth and a surprising amount of strength. Together, this unlikely trio set off to explore the wonders of the lost planet. They went on a wild goose chase, or rather, a wild Ferdinand chase, to find the legendary Crystal Palace, a place of pure imagination where anything could happen. Along the way, they encountered all sorts of challenges, from talking trees to singing flowers, and even managed to avoid being squashed by a giant butterfly. Finally, they reached the Crystal Palace, only to discover that it was inhabited by the most peculiar creature of all, a tiny old man who looked suspiciously like a shriveled-up version of Captain Curiosity. And wouldn't you know it? He was the ruler of this miniature world, and he'd been expecting Captain Curiosity's arrival. It turns out that Captain Curiosity wasn't just any ordinary explorer. He was destined to be the ruler of the lost planet, a responsibility thrust upon him by the ancient prophecy. And so our story ends with Captain Curiosity accepting his new role as the miniature world's leader, ruling alongside his animal buddies and living happily ever after, or at least until the next adventure. The end.